Okay, we're up to today's Daf Islam. We're in Chaf Tes Amid Beis. Chaf Tes Amid Beis. We're describing the shtar called the shtar Daisa or shtar of Haida. And we said that if a person is Maida and they make a kinyan, then they would write a shtar on it. If by Metalflin, if they didn't make a kinyan, they didn't write a shtar on it. So we're discussing that. We're I don't know how many lines up. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, about 18 lines up. If there's Maida in Metaltalin, Vikana Miyada, and they make a kinyan, Kaisvin, they would write a shtar Haida without even asking the loiva, they would write it. The Imlav, and if there's no kinyan and Kaisvin, they wouldn't write it. The Mekarkoi, Veloikana Miyadai, by Karka, they're Maida in a piece of Karka that the Karka of Ruvain, that he's Muchsik, he's Maida to Shimon, that it belongs to Shimon. So Ruvain's Muchsik in the Karka, and he's Maida at Shimon's. And they don't make a kinyan. What's the din? What's the din? Amema oima ein kaisvin, mazutra ama kaisvin. Says Rashi, kaisvin. The kivin the oidale, since he's moida the dehu, since he's moida that it belongs to it's not missing, but being collected. The bishleim metaltalin milvaloid sonitnu. Bishleim metaltalin. The purpose is for going ahead and using it, so it's not in the person's rishus. V'chayv ba'almahu, and then he just owes it to him. Umilva al peh, ream and milva b'shtar. V'lei nichalei la'aluma. Aval hacha, but by karka, giluye milsa ba'almahu. It's a gili milsa ba'almahu that it belongs to him. You don't have to worry about him being might see it because it's right there in front of you. So kaisvin, you would write a shtar haida on that. The hilcha said halacha is kaisvin. When it comes to karka, we're going to write a shtar haida. Ravina ikla lidamaria. Ravina came to a town called Damaria. Amalei Avdimi bar Rav Huna midamaria. Said Ravdimi, son of Rav Huna from Damaria, li Ravina. Mitaltali v'isnu be'anayu mai. So no, we said the chesaron mitaltali is not around because the light sun didn't know. What happens if it is around? What happens if it's tied up in front of you? Would you write a shtar on that? Mai. Amalei kimikarki dami, and you'd write a shtar. Avashiyama kivin the mechasra gavaina. Since it's not in your possession, right? It's not in your possession. You can go ahead, right, and even though it's here now, but it can be gone the next minute. Loy, you don't write a shtar. Again, karka fellas is wherever it is. We say karka ain't an exelis, right? What does that mean? A person can steal it, but it still stays in the rishus of the owner. So once you molded that the owner it's his, it belongs to him. Mashenke metatli, even if it's here, there's no raya. Why? Because it could go. That's the difference. Okay. Hahi oidaisa, there was a shtar haida. V'loihavi kosev ba, it wasn't written in the shtar. This is the lashon of the loiva. Amar lana, the loiva said to us, kosvu v'chasmu v'havolei. Write it, sign it, and give it to him. In other words, that is the lashon of the shtar haida of the loiva. Kosvu v'chasmu v'havolei. It's not written in the shtar. Abaye v'Rav Adama Travayu, Hainu the Reish Lakish. This is the din of Reish Lakish. Dam Reish Lakish, Chazaka in Aiden Chaisman al Shtar, Ilim Kei Nasa Begadol. Here too, just like if a guy is gonna go ahead and write a shtar, right? Write a shtar. He's not going to write the shtar unless Nasa Begadol. So what's this Nasa Begadol? If you look at Rashi, we had it in Baba Basra. Hamoicha the Kaimelon v'Limcha b'Nichsei Aviv. You could sell the nechasim of the father. Acha Yehi ben Esrim. Until he's 20. Keeping the shonim leimatzi kasvu ele b'shusay. Keeping the shnayim leimatzi kasvu ele b'shusay. Vaday iu amalu. Vaday, the two people couldn't have written it unless he told them to write it. So Memela, even though either told him to write or he made a kinyan. Maskal Papi beat him Rav Huna Beit Yeshua. Miyakimidi danan lo yadinon, to write a shtar hoida even without a kinyan. The suffer the daini the other they do know. Again, what are you saying over here? That the guy didn't say to write it, but two Adam signed on it. That they know that it's a shtar haida. There's no kinyan. How do you know that? They said Besdin isn't experts in that, and the Seifrim are experts in that. So Shalina the Seifrim the Abaya, the the scribes of Abaya, the other they takanu. The Safri the Rava, the other and they takanu. Ahu Adaisa, there was the shtar haida. The Havikos of Bay was written in Duchrin Piskamei. This it was written a record of words. This is the lashon of Rashi says like Hasa Kasaba Zichron Edis B'Lashon Edim. They didn't write Zichron Edis B'Lashon Edim. El B'Lashon Zichron Devarim Fu Lashon Dayanim. They wrote it not in the lashon of Edim, but they wrote it what in the lashon of Dayanim. Right? They wrote it what in the lashon what of Dayanim. The Chol Lishnei de Beidina V'Lehavi Kasaba, and all the whole shtar was written in the lashon of Bezdin, and there was only 2 people signed on it. So, fellas, if it's written in the lashon of Edis, 2 people signing are Edim. If it was written in the lashon of Bezdin, 2 people signing is a Bezdin chasa. You need 3, and you only have 2. So you had the shtar, and the shtar was written in the lashon of Bezdin, but you didn't have 3 people signed on it. You only had 2 people signed on it. Guy, good.
There's signing capacity of a bezdin.
As a bezdin, not as bezdin. In other words, there's a shtar. It's a shtar bezdin, but you want to know it's a shtar. So but now, what should have bezdin written, guys? How do you end up with 2? They probably sat down with 3, and 1 is no longer here. They sat down as 3 again. They know bezdin of 2 is nothing. So, but why does Shmuel call it a bezdin chutzpah bezdin? So if you have 2, l'chayra, it should have been written the following, fellas. Here's what it should have been written the following. It should have been written b'moisav tilasa. We were 3. We sat down as 3. Havina v'chad lesahu, and 1 is no longer around. Had they written that, everything would be kosher b'yasha. He was not around, so he couldn't sign. But they didn't write that. So you had a shtar written in the lashon of Bezdin, and you had 2 people signed on it. So Savar Avinu L'Meimar, Hainu the Reish Lakish. That's the same thing as Reish Lakish. That 2 people won't sign unless there's a purpose behind it. But that's by Edim. So Amalei Rav Nasan Barami, Hachi Amina Mishmei Rava. Kol Ki Hagavna, in a case where it's a lashon of Bezdin, and you only have 2, Chashinin LeBezdin Toyin, they what? Bechayish for a Bezdin that made a mistake, and they think that 2 people could pass it. So in other words, it's not going to be a good star. It's not going to be a good star. So Ravina wanted to tie in it's a good star, and the Rav Nassan said to Ravina, the Rav Nassan Rabbi said to Ravina, in this case, in the name of Rava, we're going to be chayish that it's the Bezdin making a mistake. Right. Amar Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, even if you chayish for a Bezdin that makes a mistake, right? And therefore they wrote the shtar. If it's written in the shtar beidina, in other words, in front of us a bezdin, so and so is maida. In front of us a bezdin, so and so is maida. Suleit sarach. You don't need what? You don't need another. And then it would be okay. Then we'd be samech on them that they were 3, and one of them, didn't sign. Will be high. But in other words, if they wrote Bezdin, what will we assume if they wrote Bezdin? That they were a Bezdin. They're missing, we were 3, and okay. But in other words, if they wrote Beidina, that's enough to state that what? We were 3, and 1 is no longer here. The assumption is, once you wrote, what does Beidina mean? It equals 3. So in the shtar, it says we were 3, but it doesn't say anything would happen. So Memela will say that what it was a good Bezdin, and it's a good shtar. Fred the Gemara, Vidilma, Bezdin Chatzafu, right? Dama Shmuel, Shnaim Shedanu, 2 people that judge Dinayim Din, Ela Shenikru Bezdin Chatzaf, it's called a Chutz B'dika Bezdin. Says the Gemara, the Ksiv Bei Beidina de Rabnana Ashi. We were the Bezdin of what? Of Rav Ashi, right? The Dilma Rabbanan de Rav Ashi Kishmuel Svirulhu. Maybe they hold like Shmuel that a Bezdin Chatzaf works. The Ksiv, right, says, they wrote, Amar lo Ravna Ashi, and Rav Ashi told us to write the shtar, and Rav Ashi is not going to hold what like Shmuel. So if you look at Rashi tells us on the 4th wide line, the 4th wide line. V'amar lanu Ravna Ashi lichtrei. Rav Ashi told us to write it kach. The kivin du hoyasham. Rav Ashi was there. Mislama loitziva lepachas mishloishim. Mislama, he would not command anyone less than 3 lichtoiv to write. Good. So in other words, we have even only 2 signed. There are many mitigating factors to show It's a Bezdin Ravashi. Ravashi told us to write. We could assume that what? It's on the up and up, even though two people signed. And this will be a viable Shtar Haidah. And this would be a viable Shtar Haidah. Again, even though two people are signed, this would be what? A viable Shtar Haidah.
I'm just saying, we have a case dying at Nasa 8.
What?
Why
This
do you say these are
ain't a
plural?
Nasadayan.
But don't we say both words?
What?
Don't we say both words?
I'm saying, but this is just a Shtar Haidah. I mean, this is a. I think this is Bezdin is that it's not an Eidos. It's not me to say this. It's a Shtar of Bezdin. It's a Shtar of Bezdin. Not like in front of us. You a Moida. It's like but it's not. Why is this a Nasadayan over here? I don't know. I guess there's such a Shtar that exists. That there's two types of Shtar Haidah. In front of us, you know what? In front of us, you would not have a court case over here. You wouldn't have Adim testifying in front of them. It's the Shaila Kiddush HaChodesh there in the third parak of Rosh Hashanah. I don't know. But Haidinaka Ravashi says Rashi, Lefisha Bez Dino Hoya Roish Bimei Ravina. So his Bezdin was in the day of Ravina. Ushneim Sidru Gemara. Both Ravashi and Ravina, they were Masada the Gemara. Shal Talmud Bavli. Rashi gives you a little history lesson. Kidarmin and Hassam. Ravashi Ravina Seif Hayra. They were at the end of Hayra of Paskining. Ubiyom of Neramu Devar Malalu V'Hukvo B'Gemara. And this happened to occur at that end. In other words, don't get locked into saying, "Oh, Dafka the Bezdin Ravashi." It just happened to be at that time. But Einachinami, any Bezdin that would have the head and the Bezdin of Nachman would have told us to wrote it. Who had in the same din would be true. Who had in the same thing what would be true. Tan Rabbanim. Amalem Echad. One says, "Ani ro'isi avichem." I saw your father. Shehit min mois b'shida tevu migdal. He hid money in a box. It's shida, different types of boxes. V'amar, and he told us. It told me, shel ploni hain. The money is ploni, belongs to so and so. Shel ma'aser sheni hain, or their money ma'aser sheni. Babayis. If the guy said, and he said he put it in the house, lo yamaklum, he's not believed. He's not believed. Besada devar of kayamim, but in the field he is believed. In the field, what he is believed, and the sons would have to give it to that person. What's the difference, guys? What's the difference? If it's in the house, the person testifying doesn't have the ability to go take it and give it to the guy. If it's in the field, he has the ability to go ahead and take it to the guy. Since he has the ability to go take it to the guy, why do we lose by believing him? After all, it's biyadai to do it. Ella, when he's telling us, he must be telling the truth. If the money is hidden in that person's house, and therefore he's saying, he told me he hid it in the house and it belongs to Harry, you can't go in the house, get it to give it to Harry. But if it's in the field, he said, go to the oak tree in this locale, and underneath that oak tree, you're going to find that, and you do, then why shouldn't you believe him? He could go ahead, pick it up, and give it to Harry, right? So therefore, that's the difference between the two. So in the house, he's not believed. Why? Because it's not biyadai. In the field, it's Devaris Kayamim. Klal is Shaldava. What's the klal? Kol shebiyadai litlan. Anything that he has the power to go ahead, take, and deliver, Devar of Kayamim. So when it's in the field, Devar of Kayamim. Ain biyadai litlan, lo yamaklum. Then it's nothing. Okay, so that's case number one. Case number two. Hari shero es avihem. They, the sons, saw the father. Shehitmin mois b'shida tevu migdal. V'amar shel ploinim heim shel ma'aser sheni heim. So, unfortunately for them, the Yarshim, the father says, "What? This money that I'm putting away, it belongs to so and so, or it's ma'aser sheni." Im kim ma'aser, if he said it over in a matter of what of a tzava, in the matter that he's commanding them and telling them what to do. Dvar of kayamim. Im kima'arim, but if he's saying it like in a tricky way, then lo yamaklum. Then what? If he says it in a tricky way, then lo yamaklum. So why would he be tricking? Rashi says, Shu misyaresh lo yitlam b'chayav. He was scared they would take it in his lifetime. Oy shelo yachziku ka'asher lahaysev al yitzi yisaf. Okay. Harshoyim mitztar al moy sheniach le'aviv. Uba balachaloim. Listen, his father died. He knows his father left him a Yerusha, but he doesn't know where it is. You hear this? So he knows his father's been putting away money for years. There's no mattresses left in the house. Right? He used to put it in the mattress. And they want to know, where is it? Right? Where is it? So he goes to sleep. Uba Bal Chaloim. The Bal Chaloim, Rashi says, Sar Hamare Chaloim is Belayla. The Malach of dreams came to him. V'amaloi kach v'kach heim. This is the amount. B'makam ploni heim, and they're in this place. So right now it's a great dream, right? Great dream. Now it becomes a nightmare. Ain't Shemaisa Sheni, but guess what? It ain't yours. It's Maisa Sheni. Hein. So are you Maisa? There's Taka Maisa like that? V'yamru, and they told him, Divrei chalomis le'maylim le'maridin. In other words, you can keep the money, right? And you don't have to give it. You're able to go ahead. You're able to take it. You're able to take them, and that's it. Shnai moimim zakai. Okay, guys, what was the case? Two dayanim say you're zakai, and one says you're not. So why do we tell the guy? We said, you don't tell him, I wanted to vote for you, but I couldn't, So again, what would the official announcement be? What would the official announcement of Besdin be? What would they announce? What would they announce? Was there an announcement made? What exactly was the announcement? Good. What exactly was the announcement? So we're going to have a through machlokas. Michda hechi ksivi. What would they write? Writing up the minutes. Well, what would they tell the cipher to write? Rabbi Yochanan Amar simply say what? Zakai. That's it. Whoever you are, Zakai. Reish Lakish Amar, Ploni Mizakin, and Ploni Mechayev. So and so get Bezdin of 3, Dinei Mominis. So Ploni and Ploni, two these Dayanim, they were Mizaka, and one was Mechayev. So you would know exactly who. Rebbe Lazar says, they would write Midivreihem from their words, Nizdaka Ploni. Ploni was what? Nizdaka, he won. Good. My binayu, what's the difference? Now, the only difference, fellas, is going to be between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, not between Rebbe Lazar. It's a little sherlach, but my binayu, the difference Rabbi Yochanan says Stam Zakai, and Reish Lakish spells it out, right? What's the difference? My binayu, binayu, l'shlume ihu mansa behadayu. Whether the third dayan has to pay. In other words, like Rabbi Yochanan, that it zakai, meaning if they blow it. Let's say it turns out they blew it. So really it wasn't zakai. They got the wrong guy. So since you say a general lashon is zakai, even the one who said the right psak, he's going to have to pay. Like the man the Amar Reish Lakish who said you spell it out. What? Says the Lamanda Amar Zakai Mishalim. Well, Lamanda Amar Pliny Mizakin, Pliny Mechayavim, Loy Mishalim. Now, obviously, if you voted that the guy's chayiv, you got the correct psak, and the other guys blew it, you're gonna have to pay. Fred the Gemara. Well, Lamanda Amar Zakai Mishalim, right? Leimelahu, Ilidi Lamed Rabbi Yochanan. Leimelahu, Ilididit Saisinon Aslain Nami Leishlam Misun. If you would have listened to me, that I said chayiv, you won't be paying anything. In other words, like, I got to pay for your mistake. Had you listened to me, you wouldn't be paying anything. So that can't be the nafkamina between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Ella, ikabinayu, l'shlume inu mansa didei. Whether the two dayanim that blew it would have to pay. In other words, so you're right. The guy who got psak right, there's no way he's paying. Good? So who's going to make up that third of the money that you were mechayev the guy, right? Who's going to make up the third? Lamandi Amazakai, Mishalman. Like the Amazake, the two guys who said Zaka will pay. Lamandi Pliny Reish Lakish, Mizakin and Pliny Mechayavim, Loy Mishalme. They're not going to pay. No, they won't have to pay, right? According to they won't have to pay that amount. Well, Lamandi Amazakai Mishalme, the one who says Zakai, they have to pay the third party. Let them say to him, let the two guys who blew it say to the one who didn't. Ilav at bahadon, if you aren't with us, we'll have you solik dinamidi. We wouldn't have a bestin. So l'chayra, we should pay your part. If you weren't with us, we don't have to pay anything. El ikabinayu, nothing to do monetarily, guys. It's not a monetary difference. No, that's not the nafkamina. What the luck is, I'm not sure, but But that's not the nafkamina is a more musadik. Why does it say? Mishum loiselich rachel ba'amcha. You should not have a rachel. You should have a peddler. Someone saying rechilis among you. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Zakai. Why does Rabbi Yochanan say a general lashon Zakai? Mishum loiselich rachel. He doesn't want what? You shouldn't be saying something about Reish Lakish Amar ploni mizakin uploni chayav. Change the gersa. Uploni mechayev. Mishum de michse keshikra. Again, if you would say only Zakai, it's a lie. It's not true. In other words, you say Zakai because that's the bottom line. The bottom line is you were Zaycha, right? But it's not really true that everyone said you're Zakai. One guy said you're Chayev. So says Reish Lakish, I can't say Zakai. It's not true. I got to tell the truth. So they're both going ahead and dealing with what? A Musavart. According to Rabbi Yochanan, we're worried about Rechilis. And according to Rabbi Reish Lakish, we're worried about Shakranas. We're worried about lying. So Rabbi Loza Islay Demar Vislay Demar. He's a half-breed. He's a hybrid. Half-breed. He's not a chas shalom. He's a hybrid. Islay Demar Vislay Demar. Hilkach Kasvei Hachi. What do you write? Midivreihem Nizdaka Ploini. From their words. In other words, from their words. Which words? The words of two of them who said you write Mizaka Ploini. See, it's not Mixlei Kashikra, and you're not over Rechilas by announcing who it is. That's nafkamina.
Why can't you just announce the school without saying who it is?
They wrote this up in what do you mean? That's what Zakai means. That's what Zakai means. That's what Zakai means. Zakai means you won. Nobody write the score. Well, 2 Dayanim voted for you and 1 didn't vote for you. I guess when the Supreme Court, did they announce who voted what? Sure, absolutely, right. I think they. So it seems that as if you don't announce, it's one thing, but once you're, once I guess.
Unless you say that if there are only 3 judges, it had to be 2. It stands to reason it had to be 2 to 1. What else could it be?
Obviously, that's the obvious.
Okay.
Okay, guys, let's go back to the Mishnah. Let's see exactly what happened here. When it says Gemara, go up 4 lines. When it says Gemara, go up 4 lines and Chavtes Amud Aleph. Once they concluded the matter, meaning they went ahead, guys, they had sent the Bali Dinim were there. They had brought in 1 aide, sent them out, brought in the other aide, sent them out. And now, when they concluded their right, my son, they would bring the aidim back, bringing them back in. Hagadol Shabayanim then would make the announcement. Okay, now who went out? Who are they bringing in? Who are they bringing in? Who says they left? Maybe. You might be right. You might be right, but let's see. Okay. We're on Daf Lamed, we're about a little past the halfway point. Gomaras Levaroy Machnisim by the 2 dots. Leman, Ilemi Lebaldinim, if they say they bringing back the Baldinim, Hasam Kaimi, they was there all the time. They hadn't left. When you say to bring them back, they never left to be brought back. They never left to be brought back. They never left to be brought back. Elahu le'edim. It must be that they're telling the edim to reconvene. Now, what are they bringing back the edim for? L'chayra, to go ahead and say what they saw. I mean, why else are they bringing back the edim in? If they're finished with the edim, it must be there both together. Okay, they're bringing back the edim that they should go ahead and say what they saw. It's a little. Didn't they say Goymer Sadova? They concluded something. Already, right? They finished already. So what are they bringing back the edim to testify what they saw?
They were separated.
Kiman, the like Reb Nasin. This is not like Reb Nasin. The Tanya, la'olam eine dusam mitztarefes. Edus cannot be counted as one kat edim. Achiru shneim keachad. In other words, by dinei maminis, you have to go ahead and see at the same time, according to the Tanakama. You can't. In other words, we have to see at the same time. You can't see one day and one the next day, same time. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha Omer, afilu b'zeh hazeh. So that is talking about what you see. What we need is the next part. There's two machloikas in. Machloikas Tanakama and Rishub ben Karcha, what you see, and the machloikas how you testify. The ein edusim is kayemis bebezdin. Edus is not fulfilled in bezdin. At sheyidu shneim keechad. They have to testify at the same time. Rav Nasan Omer shoymim devar shel zeh hayoim ukashiyavei chaver lemacha shoymim mes devarav. So. And we don't require them to come back and be together at the same time. So our Mishnah that says Machnisim Maisa, you bring them back, right? You're bringing them back in, can't be according to what? According to Reb Nassan. It can't be according to Reb Nassan. If you look at Rashi, Lamed like Reb Nassan, the Masnisan Ketani, the Mishnah said, the La'ailinu L'sadeh, you bring the sadeh mishum de mitchila kishebotkum shamu devar shazeh b'loizeh. In other words, now you're bringing them back in. So mashma to testify a second time. I have to see what's going on. Go with it, I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure what's going on over here. They're bringing the Eidim back for what purpose? L'chara, they concluded their statements. L'chara, they concluded they had it, and they're bringing them back to announce their decision. You're not bringing them back for another. It's Masha from Rashi. You're bringing them back for what? For another testimony. But it said, "Gam Wasadav." In other words, you came to your conclusion. Okay, that's my problem right now. Clearly not like Reb Nassan, because Reb Nassan said they can be on 2 different days. Over here, you see they got to be together. That's mechanically that's the Gemara. That's the Gemara. Okay, now so let's say our Mishnah is not like Reb Nassan. Okay, loy lo'olam lebalei dinim. You know, you're not bringing back the Eidim. You're not bringing back the Eidim. It's you're bringing back the Bali Dinim. What's your kasha that the Bali Dinim were there all along? They weren't there all along. From the Chemyahi, and it's according to the opinion of the Chemya, the Tanya, from the Chemya Omer, Kachoyim in Hagashal Nikiyai Hadas Yerushalayim. This was the minig. Machnisim lebali dinim. They would bring in the Bal Dinim and let them make their claim. V'shoyim devrayim. You listen to their words. Umachnisim esa Eidim. Then you bring the Eidim back. V'shoyim devrayim and listen to their words. Umoitzi son lechutz. Then you would send them outside. V'noisim b'davar. They would go ahead and discuss everything, and then they would give you their conclusion. So obviously, according to Nehemiah, the Balei Dinim was sent out. Good. I Tanya Gomer Sadava Machnisin Esa Eidim. I see it says right. It says the Gemara he deloy Reb Nassan. Vaday guys, that can't be according to Reb Nassan because Reb Nassan says they can be there at different times. Kufa, going back over the Brisa. La'olam ein edusim mitzarefes. Okay, again, guys, there's 2 dinim. There's what you see and edus be mitzaref. What you see is machloikis the Tanakama and Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. What you testify is the machloikis between the Tanakama and Reb Nassan. Ein edusim mitzarefes at sheyiru shneim keechad. They have to see it at the same time. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha Omer afilu b'zach hazeh. Right? And this machloikis, guys, is rak b'dinei mamanis. But dinei nefashis, everyone holds you have to see it at the same time. Guys, this is important for later on. This din about seeing at 2 different times is by dinei mamanis. By dinei nefashis, you have to see it at the same time. You have to see it at the time. You might remember the Gemara Makis, one window, and the guy in between is mitzaref them. Right? Yeah, they have to see. Okay, so now.
By traditional Vana, they can see separately, no?
Again, this is dinei mamanis. This is dinei mamanis. Dinei nefashis, they have to see at the same time. So it could be different, but this is dinei mamanis. So now, the my kamiflagi, what's the machloikis, guys? So again, Tanakama says that in order to be made, you have to see at the same time. According to Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, you can be one after the other. Is this a svara? Is it a pasuk? Gemara says it's both. But my kamifli, what's the svara samachloikis? Iba yisem ekra. If you want, I can tell you a pasuk. Iba yisem if you want svara. Iba yisem is svara. Amana de masid high like masid high. V'amana de masid high like masid high. On Sunday, Ruvain tells you he owes Shimon $100. On Tuesday, on Monday, another person shows up, and Ruvain tells you he owes Shimon $100. Each one here's a haidah on a different 100. You're not hearing the haidah on the same 100. So that's the svara. Amai de kamasid high, lo yamasid high. So the haidah, in other words, each one is testifying on a different 100. What are they saying? That Reuven was made in front of us that he owes Shimon $100. But since it's on 2 separate days, it's not made in the same 100. Va'idach, and Rabbi Shua ben Karcha says, Amana ba'alma travayu sadeh. Good, let's say it's not the same 100. Does Reuven owe Shimon $100? He definitely does. So they're testifying on $100. I could be he owes him 200. I guess he's testifying 100. And this is what he owes him. V'ibay Yisem Akra, it's a pasuk. Dichsiv. Now this is a pasuk of Shavuos Eidus. It says, "Who ate?" Let me get to the pasuk. V'nefesh kisechta, a nefesh does an aveira. V'shama kol Allah, for who aid ayra'a ayada im lo yagid v'nasa avaynai. If he's told to testify and they don't testify, he's going to carry with him his what? His aveira. Now it says aid. You would think it means one person, right? Maybe not. Maybe not. V'kra, what's the pasuk? D'chsiv, v'hu aid ayra'a ayada, and he refuses to testify. V'tanya, mimash b'shenemar, lo yakum aid, echad be'ish, einu yadeya shu echad, lo yakum aid echad be'ish. Don't I know, when you say ish, don't I know it's an echad? Ma tam b'leima echad, ze binyanav. Kol makom shenemar aid, harikan shnayim. You had this in the beginning of Saita. Any time what you have one aid, it means two. When you say the lashon aid, guys, it means two. Ad sheyipar lachasiv, echad. Good. For after Rahman b'lashon chad. So guys, when it says for who aid, oira'ah, what does aid mean? Two. But so why do you use the lashon of aid versus aidim? We do find the Torah says the lashon of aidim. Al pishlayim aidim yakum davar. Good. So why, if it means two, did you opt to use the lashon aid? In other words, I could say two, one or two aids by saying aidim or saying aid. But of course, if it's only one, I'm going to say aid echad. So why did I opt to go in the direction of aid versus aidim? Ela must be lemeimer adechazi travayu kechad. They can't be aidim unless they see as one. That's the svar of the Tanakama that you can't testify on mominus unless you see it as one. Certainly, Din Fachas as well. The idach and Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha for who aid ayra ayada. It's masham mikamakim any which way. It doesn't say how they have to see, as long as they see. So it could be one after the other by Dinei Maminus. So again, in the first machlokes vis-a-vis re'iyah, where do you combine or not? We either a svara, the one that says the ones who say not, because each one can be a different 100. According to Rabbi Shua ben Karcha, bottom line it is 100, and according to the pasuk, why does it say aid instead of aidim? Because it wants to be two like one. They saw as one. And he says, Rabbi Shua ben Karcha, no, any which way, aid, yada, right. The next machlokes was between the Tanakama and Reb Nassan. Vis-a-vis Haggadah say this. Do you have to be together to testify or not? The Eidei Dusim is Kayemis Bebeznat Sheyidu Shneim Keachad. Reb Nassan Oimer, Shleimin Devar Shal Zeh Hayom, Ukashiyav Chaver Lamachar Shleimin Devarav. The Micah Miflaki, guess what? Iba Yisem is Svara, Iba Yisem Akra. You have the same thing. Iba Yisem is Svara. Mar, the Tanakama Savar, Eid Echad, Ki Asi, Lishua Asi, L'Mamoin Aloy Asi. Guys, guy shows up on Sunday, one aid, and he says that Reuven was moida. Reuven was moida that what? That he owes Shimon $100. Can an aid echad be mechayiv your money? Only can mechayiv you what? A shvua. Another aid comes on Monday and says Reuven was moida that he owes $100. You can't be mitzdarif. Each one separately is mechayiv you a shvua. You can't be mitzdarif them for what? For money. Therefore, it's a svara that what? You have to testify at the same time. When they come as Eidim, then they mechayiv money. But to mechayiv money on 2 different days, each day, zich alein, they're an Eid Echad. An Eid Echad can only be mechayiv me a shvua. In other words, look at each one, not as a unit. Look at each one, not what they're testifying. Look at them at the moment. At the moment when he comes in and says that he's Maida, he's mechayiv a shvua. Mechayiv a shvua, that is not. That is not. Second, happens the next day. But to be mechayiv money, you can't be mitzvah to 2. Therefore, in mechayiv money, they have to come as 2. The Idach and Reb Nassan, atu ki asa b'hadi adadi b'chad puma kamasade. Guys, when they come when they come together as 2, are they speaking at the same time or separately? Separately. So each one, want me to view each one? This guy spoke separately. He's Mechayim Yeshua. Each one spoke separately. Ella not. What do you say? We don't view it that way. We view it as one Eidah. So good, it happens to be on 2 days, but they're both saying the same thing. Because even when they come as 2, they have to speak separately. So what's the difference speaking separately on Sunday or speaking separately on Sunday and Monday? What's the difference? Good. That's a Nasan Svara. That's why they're what? That's why they're mitzaref. Mitzarfin and Lahu, when they come at the same time, we mitzaref them despite the fact that they're speaking separately. Hachanami, when they come on 2 separate days, the Sarfinu will mitzaref them. That's the Svara of Reb Nasan. The by saying Makra, it's a pasuk. Again, this is also in the Parsha Shua say this. La yakum eid if he doesn't testify, he'll carry his iniquity. Right? Shua say this. Okay. And he swears he doesn't know, and then he admits it. This is one of the 3 shuas that Raisa in the Torah. Okay? So now, im lo yagid, if he doesn't testify, nasa avoinu amid beis. Now, udekuli alma kirabanan. So guys, this is speaking about Haggadah. You see about Yagid. It's speaking about Haggadah Eidos. Everyone, Sai the Tanakama and Sai Reb Nasan, they agree with Rabbanon that they have to see at the same time. Good? In other words, they disagree with Yeshua ben Karcha in the first Machlokes. They disagree with Yeshua ben Karcha vis-a-vis what you saw has to be at the same time. The question is, can you testify at the same time or not? The question would be, do you make a comparison between Haggadah and Re'iyah? If you do, just like Re'iyah has to be simultaneous, so too Haggadah has to be simultaneous. But if you don't make that comparison, then the Haggadah can be on 2 separate days. Or the Kuliyalma Kirabanon, and not like Rav Shua ben Karcha, the Pligi letter of Rav Shua ben Karcha. V'hacha be'akushi Haggadah l'Re'iyah kanifli. And Machlokes is, do you make a hekesh between Haggadah Seidus and Re'iyah? Masavar, the Tanakhama is of the opinion, Makshin and Haggadah l'Re'iyah. And just like Re'iyah, you had to be together ke'echad, so to Haggadah you have to be at the same time. Umasav, Reb Nasan is of the opinion, loy makshinon. You don't make the hekesh. So I agree, when it comes to Re'iyah, you have to see it at the same time. However, when it comes to Haggadah, it can be in 2 separate days. Again, guys, Dinei Mominus. This is Dinei Mominus. Reb Shimon ben Eliakim, having mishtakid Allah, Reb Yossi Reb Chanina, lemismechei. Reb Shimon ben Eliakim, he was very eager to go ahead and give smicha to Reb Yossi Reb Chanina. Like Hamistayim Milsi wasn't successful. Yom Echad, Havi Yosef Kamei Reb Yochanan, was sitting in front of Reb Yochanan. Amalahu, Reb Yochanan said to Reb Shimon ben Eliakim, Mi iked yoda halacha Reb Yeshua ben Karcha Eloi. Amalei Reb Shimon ben Eliakim, Dein yoda. This person, Reb Yossi Reb Chanina, he knows. He knows whether halacha is like Reb Yeshua ben Karcha or not, vis-a-vis viewing Eidos. So Amalei, so Reb Shimon ben Eliakim said, so Amalei Reb Yochanan said, Lema. Eza, so go ahead and say. So Amar Rav Shimon Chapta Rain, this is a good chance to go ahead and give him smicha. So Amar Rav Shimon said to Rabbi Yochanan, Lismechei Mar Bereisha, give him smicha first. And I guess Rabbi Yochanan was Slemech on Rav Shimon ben Yochim Zaydis that is Rai. And Samchei, Rabbi Yochanan gave smicha to Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina, which is what Rav Shimon ben Yochim wanted to do all along. Now Amar Le Rabbi Yochanan said Bini. So he said to Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina, Emily Ketzat Shemata, tell me what you heard vis-a-vis the halacha of Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha or not. Amalei, so Rabbi Yosef ben said, Kach Shemati, Shemoide Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha Reb Nasan, that Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha is moide to Reb Nasan. Because that what? Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, who says you can go ahead and view it separately, would be moide to Reb Nasan that you could go ahead and testify separately. So that's what he told him. That's what he told him. So Amar, said Rabbi Yochanan, I needed you to tell me this. I needed you to tell me that Rabbi Yeshua is moided to Reb Nasan. 1 second. Hashta Uma Ikariya Bahade Adadi Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha Loi Beinin. First base. Was there a business transaction or not? Was there halva or not? Was there haida or not? Haidas valvas. Was there anything? That's the Ikariya. And that Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha says you don't have to view it at the same time. You can view it separately. Haggadah mi boy. You have to tell me Haggadah that you can go ahead and testify in 2 different days. There's a much bigger svara to say that you could testify in 2 different days than there is that you could view it separately. And if he holds you can view it separately, certainly he holds you can be magid separately. So I don't need you to tell me that. Anyway, Amalei said Rabbi Yochanan to Rabbi Yossi, since I gave you smicha already, I'm not going to take you down. I'm Rav Zeirish, Mamina, Gavra Rabba, even the Samach, Gavra Rabba, once he gets a smicha, that's it. Amar Chiba Rabba Amar Rav. Halacha Rabbi Shua, you want to know what halacha was like? Halacha Rabbi Shua ben Karcha, that you don't have to view it at the same time. You don't have, in other words, the Haggadah of the Haidah, either the Halva. Guys, we're dealing with what are we dealing with? We're dealing with 2 things. Either Haidah, that he's moidi owed money, or Halva, you witness the transaction taking place. Good? That's what we're discussing. So now, says the halacha is like Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. Now, there's 2 possibilities: money or karka. Money or karka. So now, says the Gemara. Says Chir Baravin in the name of Rav. The halacha is Rabbi Shua ben Karcha, bein bekarkois, bein bemetaltlin. It doesn't make a difference. Even guys, even by metaltlin, by money, with the possibility is there's 2 separate loans or 2 separate ideas, right? Karka is not such a chiddush. What's karka? He's minded the karka belongs to that guy, so they're staying on the same piece of karka. But money could be 2 different transactions or 2 different ideas. Says Rav, the halacha is like Shua ben Karcha, that what you can view 2 separate transactions. And Ula Amar halacha Rabbi Shua ben Karcha bekarkois, with karka. Avaloi metaltlin. Why? Because it could be 2 separate transactions. Exactly right. Good. So again, Rav being very makel, both by karka and metaltlin. Ula only by karka, by metaltlin. No, we will not go ahead and say the halacha is Rabbi Shua ben Karcha because it could be 2 different transactions. Amoy Abaya halacha, when it says the halacha mechlal de pligi, that someone argues. Vam Rav Abba, Am Rav Huna, Am Rav moide chacham Rabbi Shua ben Karcha beedis karka. He's moide by karka, right? V'tani Ravidi bar Ovin ben Nezikin de Karna in the Masechta of Nezikin when the yeshiva of Karna was one of the Dayanei of Nardoi. Moide chacham Rabbi Shua ben Karcha beedis bechar. The chachamim who say you have to see at the same time you have to see it at the same time to testify. A moide by karka, the moide by edis bechar. Guys outside a bechar bisman azeh. There's no bias. If you have one, you have kahak tzaris because it's kodesh and there's nothing you can do with it. All you can go ahead and hope that it gets a mum. Once it gets a mum, it becomes your barbecue. Once it becomes a mum, it's in your backyard. It's on the barbie. Now, the kahanim were chayish therefore for putting mumim in their animals because in the time of the bias to Shlep to Yerushalayim, Shleb is not a bias certainly. What are you going to do? The animal is kodesh. So you would have an aid would be believed to say a mum in one place and a mum in another place. 2 different aidim and 2 different mumim would be mitzdarif. So the chama moided by that. Ube aid is karka to say that what the moida he's moided at the karka they be believed. Ube aid is chazaka. You have an aid on 1, 2, or 3. One year's 1, 1, 3, 5, and he's at 2, 4, 6. You would believe him mitzdarif them. The chen shebeben v'shebebas. We'll see that it means in a second that you believe on aid is ben ubas. So. Fred the Gemara Kasha, you're telling me that what? That Ula said that what? The halacha is like Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha by Karka. Mashma the Chachamim disagree. Now Rav Idi bar Ovin is bringing a raya that what? By Karka, everyone admits that what? Like Yeshua ben Karcha. So Gava Karamis, where he asking a steer on Ula from what? From Rav Ovin? Because from Ula Sava Pligi, they argue even by Karka that you can't be mitzdarf to Eidim. Umas Sava Loi Pligi, and Rav Ovin and Rav Idi, they both hold that what that they don't argue by Karka. By Karka Einachinami, there's no svara to say you can't be mitzdarf to 2. Now we said they're moida by Karka, they're moida by Bechor, they're moida by Chazaka, and they're moida by Ben Ubas. What's Ben Ubas? So we're speaking about the Shtei Cyrus guys. In other words, we said the Chazaka the Rava is at a certain age they're going to bring Shtei Cyrus, and so the Shiloh is you have Eidus on the Cyrus, but here's the thing. achas begaba. One says that it was on her back. Achas bekresa on her stomach. Back and stomach, guys, are euphemism. It's actually makan, but it's a different place. So one says on one here, one says on another here. Hai chatzi dava v'chatzi edisu. El echara mishtayim begaba. Two ve'echara mishtayim bekrisa, and then you be mitzdarif because it's 2 and 2. Rav Yosef. I know Amina Mishmei de Ula. I said in the name of Ula. Halach Rabbi Shimon Karcha bein bekarka bein b'metaltlin. In other words, we have Ula saying that what? The halacha is like Rabbi Yeshua bekarka only by metaltlin, not by karka. Right? The halacha, excuse me, not only by karka, not by metaltlin. He says the halacha is like Ula. In other words, guys, what did Ula say? Ula said only the halacha of Rabbi Shimon only by karka, but not metaltlin. And Yosef is reporting that no, he had it the Ula by both. That there is both that the Lachs like Mishum and Karka, you can start what they saw on 2 separate occasions. Rabbanan the Asim Mechuza Amri Rab Zera Mishmei de Rav. This is what we had earlier. The Mekarka sin Avolay Metalton. That Rav L'Tamei. So we had Rav before saying both. So this is Rav now retracting. No, this is according to Rav. He's retracting. Rav said initially both Karka and Metalton. That the Lachs like Mishum and Karka. Now we're saying no, only Karka, not Metalton. Rav L'Tamei Dama Rav says Rav. Hayda, achla hayda. Okay, you have 2 separate days. You have 2 separate days. One day, a guy is maida that he owes X amount, and the next day he's maida he owns the next amount to another aid, or hayda acha halva, or after you had aidim that he lent him money on day 1. A second aid comes along and he's maida to that on day what? Day 2. Mitzdarfe. In that case, they'll be mitzdarif because they're both testifying what? On the same amount. Either that he either was maida twice on the 100, or he had a halva and he was maida to halva. Avo, but let's say halva acha halva, 2 separate halvas. One person witnesses one halva on one day, and a person witnesses another halva on another day. Halva or halva acha hayda, or he's maida to a previous loan, and then another halva takes place. Loy mitzdarfi, then there won't be mitzdarf. Then there won't be mitzdarf. So this is Rav saying by metaltlin not. Ashachei Rav Nachman by Yitzchak Rav Huna Brei Yeshua. Amalei Rav Nachman said to Rav Huna Brei Yeshua, Maishna halva acha halva. What's the difference between one halva after another halva delay? The mana de kachazi high like kachazi high. Neither one saw the same 100 because it's 2 separate halvas. If that's the case, hayda ach hayda nami, a case of hayda after hayda as well. Maybe they're murder on 2 separate transactions, guys. Again, once you're saying one halva one day, next day another halva. Ostensibly, it could be the same halva that is maida, or not. Or 2. So hayda after hayda also shouldn't be good because maybe what? It's also 2 separate things. Maybe that's the question that Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak posed. And for the Gemara, the Amalei, the Loiva says, Lahai Basra to the last aid, Bahai Mana the Oidale Kamach. That mana that I'm moided to you in front of you, oidele nami kame pleni, I was moided to pleni. Hayda acha hayda. So in other words, on Monday he tells Ruvain, the money, the $100 that I'm being moided to you, is the same $100 that I was moided to Shimon on Sunday. So therefore, you know for sure it's the same 100. It's the same 100. So the second aid is being made that he was moida. On what? On both days. He's being moided by he heard from him on that day also. Fred Gemara, Akati Basra Yoda Kamala Yoda. So, but you only have one aid now. The first guy, the first guy doesn't know when he's moided that there was a second Haida. Says Gemara, the Hoda Ozel, he went back and he told the first guy, Amalei Lakama, the first aid, Haimana the Odule Kamach on Sunday, Odula Nami Kame Pleni on Monday. So Amalei, so Rav Huna Brei Yeshua told Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Tanuach daitcha shehisnachta estaiti. He says that you're right. Rav Huna Bar Yeshua told I want to make sure who's speaking to who. Rav Nachman Yitzchak, told Rav Huna Bar Yeshua. Rav Nachman Yitzchak told Rav Huna Bar Yeshua, Tenuach daitcha, you should have nichas adas. Shehisnachti estaiti, because what you gave me nichas adas. So Amalei Rav Huna Bar Yeshua is told Rav Nachman, the Yeshua Rav Nachman, my nichusa, what kind of tshuva was this? The Rava, the Itema, Rav Sheshes, Shada Beinaga. Either Rava or Rav Sheshes, they threw a wrench into the work. They threw literally an axe into it. They chopped down this thing. Lav Hainu Hoida Achahava. Is this not the same? If you're telling me he told him, it's the same as Hoida Achahalva. He had a halva, and then he was made to the halva. So if you're telling me he went back to each one, obviously it's the same thing. So what are you telling me? It's two separate cases. It's obviously the same case. So Amalei, Sir Nachman Yitzchak told Rav Huna Bar Yeshua, I knew that they say about you, the Shemi'ala Alaychu, I heard about you, the Ramisa Dikla, Vizakfisa Lahu, that you go ahead and you cut down a tree and you replant it. You cut down a tree, what? And you replant it. Okay? And in other words, you give terutzim, and then you ask kashas on the terutzim. Now, Adoy Amri, Bein Hoida Achas Hoida, Ubein Hoida Achas Halva, Halva Acha Halva, Ubein Halva Acha Hoida, Mitztarfos. They'll all be Mitztarif, Kiman, Kervishua Ben Karcha, by all Edis Mammon we're Mitztarfin, right? Because we'll say that all in what they're all going ahead and testifying what on a mana, a single 100.